I am opening, I am opening, my heart is ready to receive. I am opening, I am opening, my heart is ready to receive. I am opening, I am opening, my heart is ready to receive. So I am open, and I know for each one that is visiting us in this modern way, that they are also able to open to all that is available to be received here, that all of the concepts and ideas that are presented by our wonderful speaker, Reverend Rodney, that they are easily assimilated, easily understood, easily taken in, and moved, easily able to help people move into their weekly experience in a more loving, kind, and inclusive way. So I give thanks to that which indwells us and which makes all of this possible. And I invite you to join me in saying, and so it is. I am opening, I am opening, my heart is ready to receive. I am opening, I am opening, my heart is ready to receive.
To the Center for Spiritual Living, Princeton. I'm John Heron. I'm the spiritual director of CSL Princeton, and we are a loving, healing, and inclusive community which teaches and practices the principles of the science of mind for the well-being and spiritual growth of ourselves and the world. And it is so wonderful looking at this Zoom screen, seeing all these wonderful faces, some that we don't see that often. Clea and Angela, good to see you. Reverend Rodney Gittens is our speaker today. We are really fortunate to have a new speaker. And let me tell you a little bit about Reverend Rodney. First of all, it's really exciting for us to hear from leaders in the greater community of the Centers for Spiritual Living, and Reverend Rodney S. Gittens is that. Um, he joyfully embraces life as a journey of spiritual growth. I have a whole bio here, and it's full of wonderful things. He was introduced to religious science in 1996. He became a licensed practitioner in 2009. He has a master's degree in consciousness studies from Holmes Institute and a Bachelor of Arts degree in psychology, all wonderful things. He is the leader and the founder of the One Love Center for Spiritual Living. He's the senior minister there. He's also a co-founder of People of African Descent New Thought, PADNT, where he has served in leadership since 2021. Most recently as program co-chair for the 2026 Celebrating Our Soul Conference. And so he also says that he is passionate about empowering lives, strengthening communities, and creating welcoming spaces where all people can thrive. And so we're so fortunate to have him with us and speaking to us today. Next week, we have Reverend Karen. The week after that, we have Reverend Michelle. So these are things to look forward to. We've really been having the opportunity to be inspired by a lot of inspiring people. So I'm very glad about that. I do want to add today that I'm going to ask that we all pray for Reverend Michelle Wadley and her husband, Neil Pinkman. As some of us know, Neil has been having some very serious health issues. And I was thinking this morning, I know Ernest Holmes tells us that it's not enough just to study and understand the teaching. We have to use the teaching. And we get together and we build our consciousness individually and as a group. So let's use that consciousness in prayer for Reverend Michelle and her husband, Neil Pinkman, just knowing the highest good for both of them, and that each one of us can do privately. So again, welcome to CSL Princeton. Thank you so much.
Ooh, 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 ooh. Everywhere I am is holy ground, for I walk in love. Everywhere I am is holy ground, for the power and the presence of pure spirit makes my path gentle and easy. Gentle, easy, gentle, easy. Everywhere I am is holy ground, for I walk in joy. Everywhere I am is holy ground, for the power and the presence of pure spirit makes my path gentle and easy. Gentle, easy, gentle, easy. Everywhere I am is holy ground, for I walk in peace. Everywhere I am is holy ground, for the power and the presence of pure spirit makes my path gentle and easy. Gentle, easy, gentle, easy.
Good morning, everyone. I'm Regina Quince, and I am the practitioner of the day. I've been reading Ernest Holmes' Love and Law. It's just like the science of mind. It's a little complex, but it's inspirational, and it's a lovely series of teachings that can inspire you and give you an idea of our principles and what we believe. And I'll follow this reading with a brief spiritual mind treatment, which we call affirmative prayer. So to begin, and in this book, it's the chapter called The Law and the Word. In metaphysics, as in everything else, we are dealing with a proposition which is the substance of things which are not seen by the physical eye. The human eye sees only that which is effect. The human hand touches only that which is effect. And we are very apt to say these effects are controlled by law. That is true. Everything must be governed by law. Law controls everything, absolutely. But we are not as apt to realize that the law itself is an effect. Did you ever stop to think that not only is this planet an effect, that is, this planet did not make itself, it is an effect. When you do, you will see it is governed by law and made by law, but that law governs this planet is also an effect. The law did not make itself. The law is not intelligent as causation. It is the result of intelligence as causation. And that brings us back, and we say then, what is the cause? As metaphysicians, we claim that the word is the cause. The word is the cause of the law. The law is the cause of the thing, and the thing is the effect of the law, and the law is the effect of the word. It means this in practice that the law is written into our own hearts, and that we speak the word, and the word creates the law, and the law governs the thing. In joy, peace, happiness, realization, and of course, the highest word produce the highest effect. That person whose idea of God and their relationship to God is most exalted, most companionable and inspirational, and realizing the infinity of their own self would not hesitate to speak. It will give you a real God. It will resurrect the Savior of your consciousness. The one who gets the most exalted idea when speaking the word may say, "It is not my word, it is the word of all. It is the eternal and ever operative, and they cannot fail." The whole thing is put right out into the divine. The whole impulse of love will bring about an answer. You will find that such people begin to live in a different world. They are no longer subject to conditions. They are no longer subject to effects. They know that their word is immediately creative. It is immediately law. If it is a new word, it is a new law. It is immediately operative and manifesting, and it will do new things unto them. We will in time come back to find that the word is in our own mouth. We will find that we ourselves individually do the writing. You are each a law unto yourselves. Become unto yourselves a law of happiness, a law of peace, a law of health, life, love, truth, and beauty, and go forth to radiate that which you feel yourself to be. It is the only salvation that will ever come to this world. Everything else has been tried and has proved a miserable and utter failure. Insofar as you and I and everybody thinks the word, uses it, and makes it their word, we are perfecting ourselves and are becoming true saviors to the human race. That is your duty, and it is mine, to every day prove this word in our life, for it is the great reality. Your word is the law unto the thing. And so, right here and right now, knowing truth, knowing intelligence, knowing the harmony, order, the peace, the joy, the happiness, the abundance that is the divine which has embodied each of us in its being, embodied itself in us, as us, of us, through us. We allow this being to be our word. We allow this being to transmit us into a happiness, a harmony, a joy, a peace, abundance, and prosperity. We allow it to be here fully within us, as us, and of us. We allow it to be. And in those moments where we drift out of this knowingness, we come back to the presence. We settle, we synchronize, we transform ourselves, our thinking, into the one that has made all things good. We accept the I am that each of us are. We allow it to be, and with the deepest gratitude to know this truth, to be this truth, to allow this truth to be here fully. This word is law. It is our law. And say with me, and so it is.
When I was a boy each week, on Sunday we would go to church and pay attention to the priest. He would read the holy word and consecrate the holy bread, and everyone would kneel and bow. The only difference is everything is holy now. Everything is holy now. When I was in Sunday school, we would learn about the time Moses split the sea in two and Jesus made the water wine. I remember feeling sad that miracles don't happen still, but now I can't keep track, 'cause everything's a miracle. Everything's a miracle. Wine from water is not so small, but an even better magic trick is that anything is here at all. So the challenging thing becomes not to look for miracles, but finding where there isn't one. When holy water was rare at best, it barely wet my fingertips, but now I have to hold my breath like I'm swimming in a sea of it. It used to be a world half there, heaven second rate, hand me down, but I walk it with a reverend air, 'cause everything is holy now. 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 Read a questioning child's face and say it's not a testament. Well, that'd be very hard to say. See another new morning come and say it's not a sacrament. I tell you that it can't be done. This morning outside I stood, baby, wanna bow my head. I remember when the church let out, how things have changed since then. Saw a little red-winged bird, shining like a burning bush, singing like a scripture verse, singing like a scripture verse. Everything is holy now, 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 everything is holy, everything is holy now. All right, everything is holy now, and it gives me the greatest pleasure to introduce the Reverend Rodney Gittens. John has already outlined his amazing CV. This man has done so many things in this teaching, and now he is the pastor of the One Love Center for Spiritual Living in the great state of Brooklyn. So I want to welcome him, and I command to everyone, all rise in consciousness.
Greetings and grand rising consciousness. Thank you so much. It is an honor to be here at Princeton CSL. And thank you, Rich and John, everybody, for welcoming me. And it's an honor to be here with you from One Love Center for Spiritual Living. It's indeed a pleasure. I've actually been a friend of Princeton for many years, and have I attended a installation for Reverend Ian Taylor many years ago. Definitely appreciate Reverend Karen Kushner, and have learned a lot, from that involvement, collaboration with Princeton, and I'm so glad to be here. And so thank you so much, and blessings to each and everyone. And thank you for that wonderful opening prayer, Regina. And I was like, boy, do I feel complete. Do I even need to go through this? But however, there must be something in here for someone, so we'll do it. So our talk title is Law and Order in the Court. The divine law is now in session. So hear ye, hear ye, hear ye. Court is now in session. Today, the divine law is in session. It's always in session. As we heard, there is never a time when the law is not in session, based on our very word. And quite honestly, that word doesn't necessarily need to be spoken. When I first came into this teaching, I was told and taught to mind my thoughts, because thoughts are things. Yes, and these things manifest, these thoughts manifest, regardless of whether we have the power to verbalize or not, it's still based on our thought. So we have to be very, very careful. Is in session. It's not the law of punishing up. I always thought the law was against me, literally and figuratively. It always felt as though that things were just not working out for me. And as I came to realize, it's by law. So this is not a law, as I understand it now, of fear. Before I was fearful of the law. It was just my experience. And so, and it's not the law of separation. I know that now today as well, but it's the law of mind. It's the law that responds to consciousness, to our intention and belief. And it's also the order of love. So we have law and order, the order of love, the order that brings harmony into every aspect of life. And they work together. They must be together. So I say again, welcome to law and order in the court, where the case before us is your spiritual authority. Ernest Holmes says there's a power in the universe greater than you, and we know that we get to use it, especially in a conscious way. So since this is a courtroom of lawyers, spiritual lawyers, that is, I'll present the case and treat your mind to a treat. First and foremost, I remember Ernest Holmes telling us that we're all practitioners. And practitioners of what? Of law. Now, some of us study and get the title, certification, and the title of practitioner, but we're all, each and every one of us, is practicing the law on some level, and preferably on a conscious level. And that way we have less opportunity to complain when things don't seem to work out the way we like. And so this falls to me as every spiritual tradition affirms that there is a law that governs creation. There is an order to the universe, and that there is a court within each of us, the inner chamber where beliefs are examined, doubts are questioned, and truth renders a verdict. So today we step into that sacred courtroom. Today, we enter not as defendants, but as divine heirs to learning to claim our rightful authority. Right? This is who we are, stepping into the courtroom of our lives. And we know that there's no judge sitting up on high. Thank God. Yeah. There's no one and nothing to judge us. The case is heard and affirmed in the mind and the consciousness of the one that is the ones of the one, which is each and every one of us. We are ones of the one, because all there is one. Ernest Holmes has another quote. It says, there is a consciousness and a power in the universe that responds to us. And that's from Living the Science of Mind. So I say right here, right now, in this most conscious of ways, this court is called to order. In the beginning was the Word, and in metaphysics, the Word means consciousness. The court of your life is called to order whenever you say, I am ready to know the truth. I don't know how many have experienced that, but when we ask that question of ourselves, we get plenty of opportunities to practice the truth. Have you noticed that? Yeah, I want more peace in my life. And all of a sudden, here comes more opportunities to practice peace that don't look like peace. So the court is already in session. And so before we really get to experience that which we desire, what happens? The mind is noisy. We have, on one side, the prosecutor of fear. We have witnesses of past hurts and the defense attorney of truth whispering quietly. So the minute that we call our court to order, as soon as we start paying attention, everything in consciousness must align. Okay. Spiritual order is not about control. It's about alignment. It really is about bringing law and order and love and law together in truth. Order says, an orderly life says, remember who I am. Order says, I stand in truth. Order also says, divine mind is present, and therefore I cannot be confused. Ernest Holmes says the law of mind is a natural law in the spiritual world. That's from the Science of Mind text. And so now we get to present the case. Each and every one of us has a case, but the case is not about what happens out there. It's always about, what story am I believing? Yeah. How often do we make up stories? How does that said? We have an MSU, who have an advanced degree from MSU, making stuff up. So we all have to pay attention to what story not only am I repeating over and over in my mind, what story am I believing? So the spiritual courtroom, the prosecutor is an old belief. You can't, they're not enough. Who do you think you are? The witnesses and the memories and emotions and past experiences. The defense attorney is spiritual truth. You are whole. You are powerful. You are the activity of God in expression, right? On our side all the time. This is what we do when we are doing our spiritual mind treatment. We are not necessarily defending against anything. We are upholding in truth the true nature of who we are. That is our defense. Not out of fear, and not making up any lies. We're speaking truth. And it's so important to recognize that if there is a possible judge in our lives, it's the higher self. The divine law knows only one truth, that you are my beloved expression, in whom I am well pleased. Isn't that a wonderful way to be judged? If we have to go that route. And so, Ernest Holmes, it says, listen, the quest, is always, what voice will you let testify? At any moment, at any time, what voice are we paying attention to? Is our defining voice in a defining moment? Ernest Holmes says, man's life is controlled by his thinking, his or her thinking. Again, that's from the Science of Mind text. We always need to recognize this, always need to pay attention to those thoughts, our thinking. When I say thinking, I'm not talking about our memory. How many people they go, well, let me think about it. And most of the time, they're trying to remember something from before that they feel comfortable with that they can apply to this moment. What I'm saying in a more spiritual aspect of thinking is contemplation. It's being, as we say, for this year in Centers for Spiritual Living, the theme is open at the top. Can we be open at the top when it comes to our thinking and not base it on the previous activities? I know many times in the legal courtrooms in our basic human experience, many lawyers will say, well, no, don't use his past events to judge him now or her now. So it's very important that we don't do that to us. Allow the past is is like, okay, we've been presented with the issue. Many of us know who practice, who do spiritual mind treatment. We have clients, we have people who we work with, and they present their case. They present, this is the problem. I can't get over this hump. This is not working for me. And any instance, not enough money, no friends, or not the right kind of friends, or whatever it is. Now it's time for the cross-examination. And when fear is testifying, our cross-examination comes into play. So what do we say? We say, is that really true? And do I have evidence of any past triumphs? Also, does divine law support lack or abundance? And then when doubt testifies, cross-examine it. Who benefits from this belief? What divine truth overrides this story? Okay, we can't just accept that fear thought as our lives. And many of us in this teaching already know that. That's why we do have practitioners. We do have people that we can trust and talk with and listen and share with. And so when those old wounds come up, when they testify, we have to cross-examine them. And does my history have any authority over my destiny? And we already know that that answer is no. Cross-examination is where awakening happens. In that moment, we shift the entire case. So never look at that which you do not wish to experience. And that's Ernest Holmes, The Science of Mind, again, text. Where's that focus? When we talk cross-examination, we know to be helpful, to be life affirming. Yes, does that make sense? Yeah. And so it's really important that we get to a verdict. After all is said and done, we get to a verdict. After every spiritual trial, there's always a verdict. And the verdict is not guilty or insufficient evidence. No. The verdict in the divine law is always, you are free. Regardless of what happened before, and in each passing successive moment, you are free. It reminds me of a song. It said, don't you know that you are free? Only in your mind, if you want to be. And that's where it all begins. It all begins in mind. We're the only ones who can take away our freedom and the only ones who can grant it. Just even thinking about Nelson Mandela, when he was imprisoned, it was always a wonder how he could stand it, how he could withstand being locked up, a political prisoner, and only for that reason. And he knew that in his mind, he was free. In his mind, he knew that you can't imprison my mind. You can imprison my body, but not the truth of who I am. Okay? And so we are free from our old stories, free from the prosecution of fear. We are free from the limitations that once tried to define us. Okay? Whatever that seemed to be the truth back then is not the truth of who you are, who you have ever been, especially not now. Especially now that you're hearing that word that gives you that sense of freedom, that sense of peace. And so, again, we are free from the limitations that once tried to define us. The divine judge tenders only the verdict, the only verdict possible. I find you worthy. I find you enough. I find you equipped. Case dismissed. Go live your truth. Yes, it's that simple. Each one of us, each one of you is hereby declared free by divine birthright. Unless you claim otherwise. We're all free to go live our lives. However, each one is also free to resort back to the previous belief, back to the false and limiting thoughts. We all, and thank God. And Ernest Holmes says, never limit your view of life by any past experience. How awesome is that? That we are free in any and every moment to live our lives based on now, based on what we perceive to be the way in which we desire to live. And so after the verdict, what happens? There's usually a sentence. ourselves to a life of love. When the verdict is rendered, the courtroom does something unusual. Instead of sentencing you to suffering of times, suffering, how about a suffering of time served? I've been there, done that. I no longer need to return to that, no longer need to suffer. The key to suffering is understanding. I think that was Viktor Frankl who said that. And divine court sentences you. Sentence. A life of service, a life of compassion, a life of spiritual authority. We get to claim our spiritual authority, walk around with our head held high, stepping lightly, being free. We're sentenced to go and be a peaceful, beneficial presence on the planet. And how wonderful that is that, we know divine law doesn't punish, unless we're the ones administrating the law and punishing ourselves. Divine law, of course, is impersonal except to the one who is practicing the law. Ernest Holmes reminds us that love rules through law, and love is a divine givingness. When love is a divine givingness, law is the way. Again, that's Ernest Holmes' Science of Mind. So the court is adjourned by appointing you every spiritual journey ending as a conscious creator of your life. You are empowered to speak truth. You're empowered to heal. You are empowered. And regardless, whether you're a practitioner, minister, a spiritual student, you are empowered to practice the law on behalf of others. Now, court is not adjourned because its time together ends. Court is adjourned so that you may begin your real work. There is a divine urge within everyone to know more, to be more. Again, that's Ernest Holmes from Science of Mind. So, in closing, well, before I close, I just want to put something out.
Like where it's frozen up. Is everybody else experiencing what I'm experiencing?
Out there for each and every. We're back. All right. What does that look like for you? These are contemplations that we can make on our own. We can continue looking at this case, reviewing the case, and asking ourselves, what does it look like now that I am free? Now that I get to choose how I get to live the life of law and love. And something that I just want to like to add, just give me a moment. When it comes to law and order in the court, I love acronyms. It's another way that I get to understand the words that I use on a regular basis on a deeper level. So for law, I have LAW, living as wholeness, or if you prefer, love always works. Those are my two favorite acronyms for law. For order, I have one reality, divinely expressed rightly. And court, I have consciousness, orders, universal right thinking. Or choosing oneness unlocks right transformation. And those are my favorite acronyms for law and order in the court. And now, court is dismissed. Your life is now in full expression, in session. Peace and blessings, beloveds. Thank you. Thank you. And am I doing a treatment after the talk?
Yes. Go ahead. Go ahead, Regina.
Okay, thank you. We're going to do the offering now, and then you can do your closing treatment. And do you have, are you, Reverend Gittens, available to write in the chat?
Yes.
Can you, excuse me, can you write those acronyms in the chat?
I sure can.
All right. And I'll talk to everyone about our offering. So, hello everybody. Thanks for coming. And I'm just trying to get my picture here. Can you see me, folks?
Yes,
Yes.
we can see you.
Okay, I can't see me. The Center for Spiritual Living, Princeton, which is now a teaching chapter, welcomes your donations to our center. With your donations, we are able to have speakers like Reverend Gittens and the other speakers that and reverends and practitioners who have spoken to us as giving inspiring talks, and like Reverend Gittens did, take us to court. You know? So thank you so much to donate to us virtually. Please go to cslprinceton.org and scroll down our page, and you'll see not only a request for prayer, but also donations. And you can click on donations, and it allows you to donate via PayPal or using your check, your checking account, or things like that. So please do so. We appreciate it. We're grateful for it, and blessings to all of you. And thanks for everyone who came to our business meeting. That was really nice. So I can turn it back over to Reverend Giddens. Are you ready to give our closing treatment?
Yes.
Okay.
Thank you, one and all. I am so grateful for the one that is in, through, and as all of its creations. I am so grateful for being able to speak this word of truth, knowing that right where I am is everywhere, all powerful, most certainly equally present, and all wise, all knowing, the infinite intelligence that's created everything out of itself. How wonderful it is to speak this word about myself, and knowing that this is true for one is true for all of the ones of the one. And so I am knowing that this time together is most certainly blessed. How wonderful it is to know that there is a law that is working at each one's behest, bequest, in each one saying yes to their greater good, that each one being free, unleashed, that each one has a verdict of love that allows each one to live their best life possible. This is that divine intelligence at work. spoken into the law that knows what to do, how to do it, and operates for each one according to their belief, according to their thoughts, according to that divine word. And I am knowing that God always says yes, always. And so I am knowing that each one is being careful with their thoughts, full of care for themselves and for all other ones of the one. And each one is blessed as we move throughout this day, throughout this week, this month, this year, throughout our lives, knowing that, yes, there is a wonderful opportunity, responsibility in saying yes. That presence of the divine within each of us says yes to our greater good. I allow it to be this and so much more good showing up in each and everyone's lives by divine decree, by divine verdict, the verdict being that word of freedom and joy and love, peace and harmony, the understanding, the forgiveness, the patience, all of the goods of spirit, ever ready and available for use. So I bless each one with this truth, this word spoken into the law, divine right action returns full to overflowing, perfect right action every time. And so I allow this, I let it be the good that it is unfolding to be right here, right now, and I affirm it. And I invite each one to join me in saying, and so it is.
So it is.
And so it is.
And now it is.
Now it is.
Right on. Thank you. Bless you.
I said, guide my feet while I run this race. Guide my feet while I run this race. Guide my feet while I run this race. 'Cause I don't want to run this race in vain. Know my truth while I run this race. I said, know my truth while I run this race. Know my truth while I run this race. 'Cause I don't want to run this race in vain. Guide my feet while I run this race. Guide my feet while I run this race. I said, guide my feet while I run this race. 'Cause I don't want to run this race in vain. 'Cause I don't want to run this race in vain. Let's hear it for Reverend Gittens, Reverend Rodney. All right.